Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed.
Hi guys, my name is Angela. I like anime. So anyway, let's talk about it. So, Yuru Camp, or in English apparently, Laid Back Camp. So this anime I've been watching since about halfway through GCSE season, and if you've been watched my last episode, I was talking about how I was half term. Now I'm officially done, no more GCSEs for me. I uploaded the last episode though yesterday, so when I uploaded it, it would have been it says I already, if you read the description, it says I already finished my GCSEs. But I'd like to say I think I'm gonna try and stay on track mostly instead of going on a rant, because I think the videos where I'm more concise and just talk about what I'm supposed to talk about really do well. And sorry as well if my mic goes a bit weird, because it's like the way I set it up is kind of dumb, and I've been trying to set this up since yesterday, and it wasn't like it's not like it's broken, it's just the way I'm trying to set it up isn't working for me. So I might occasionally have to just like move it forward, which means it might get like louder at certain points, or it might fall back like it just did there, or I might have to keep holding on to it. But anyway, that's not the point. Yuru Camp. Can it stop moving? Oh my gosh. You know what? I figured something out. I'm just going to hold it. And I didn't want to hold it, but it's fine. Okay, Yuru Camp got a movie in 2022, which I haven't seen. Yuru Camp is apparently it's a seinen, which I think is a bit, I didn't think it would be a seinen. And it classifies in that genre called cute girls doing cute things. I didn't know that was a genre all on its own. But apparently it's a genre, and it would include things like Lucky Star and like K-On! Typically these are like high school anime, and you won't usually see like a male character in sight, and to be honest I prefer it like that in some ways, because of the way, I don't know, media is, like if you have one male character or at least a couple, like you'll always have to try and ship them, even if it's not a romance anime, because that's how our society works. So by removing like the male characters, like in general, I feel like it almost, you could argue it removes a little bit of the male gaze, but then you could also argue it doesn't, because this genre could just be a way for like men to like just watch like high school girls do things. I'm not trying to make this like sound weird, but by removing men, it also means that like the men don't have to look at men at the same time. But anyway, it is set in the Yamanashi prefecture, which has like it says camp. That's not what I wrote. And it's written by this person called Afro. I couldn't really find anything about them in the Wikipedia or anything else. And the manga ran from July 2015 to now. It's still currently ongoing. And the anime, season 1 came out in 2018 and season 2 came out in 2021, so last year. It's a slice of life Iyashikae, which I think is the healing anime, and it's very chill and the openings are very good. And to be honest, an interesting story about Yuru Camp is when I was like watching it, like obviously all the seasons have come out, so I was just binging all the first 2 seasons. And for our GCSE paper 2 language, they gave us a question. They gave us 2 texts about camping, and then the end article that we had to write was about whether we need to like go abroad to go, or like go far away in order to have a holiday. And at the time I didn't realize that like, oh my gosh, I'm watching a camping anime and I literally just got texted my exam about camping. Like afterwards, after the exam, I was like, oh my gosh, camping's everywhere. It didn't even help me in the exam. It didn't really matter, but I just thought it was quite interesting. But anyway, the story follows, well, if we're looking for a main character or protagonist, it follows Rin. I did not write down her full name because I think it's Shima Rin. Yeah, that's her full name, Shima Rin, who I think they're high school, I should check this. They're either high school second years or first years, and they love like camping. Well, no, Shima loves camping, but only solo camping. And Nadeshiko, who is the new girl at the school, joins at the beginning of season 1, and they randomly meet at this lakeside camp near Mount Fuji. And Fuji is like always like, he's like not a main character, he's like an integral part of this anime, and they call him Fuji-san, which I think is quite nice, because like they're showing a little bit of like respect to Mount Fuji. I swear Mount Fuji is a volcano though, or am I just being dumb? Anyway, that's not the point. And Nadeshiko, where she used to live, she couldn't really see Mount Fuji that well, but now that she's moved to the city that Rin lives in, she gets to see Mount Fuji like pretty much every day. And when they first meet, she's like in awe about Mount Fuji. And I kind of I love Nadeshiko because in a way she like revitalizes like camping for Rin, because later in the story as well, I like how they didn't like, because you know how they could easily have been like, oh, camping with friends is so much better than camping alone. Like they could have really easily done that, and I'm very appreciative that they didn't do that. Like later in the series, they still make it important that like Rin still loves to camp on her own, but just camping with other people gives a different side of camping that she wouldn't have been able to experience without Nadeshiko like prompting her. And even still, Nadeshiko like from the beginning is kind of like the opposite for her. She falls in love with camping, you could say, because of Rin, and she loves camping with other people. But then as the series progresses, she realizes that she wants to be more independent and try solo camping the way that Rin has been solo camping, which again shows us that they've been like delving into each other's side of camping, and now they have experiences they can both like enjoy either together or on their own, because sometimes people aren't always available to go group camping. And there's a sort of, I think, I should have gotten the quote for this, but Rin, I think either in season 2, is talking about how she's just like vocalizing like how solo camping feels like to her. And I think it was very good, and I should have written this down. I'm only remembering this now because I wrote the script like yesterday. But I think that's very important, because when she said that, she kind of inadvertently, I don't know if that's the right word, she accidentally prompted Nadeshiko to want to like chase that feeling of appreciating. I think she said something about appreciating loneliness, because loneliness is something that we all fear in life. But no matter what, we're like in certain points in our lives, we're going to be alone. And I think finding a way to either enjoy our loneliness or appreciate it, or find something that we can do just for ourselves, is just as important as hanging out with friends and finding something to do with friends. And again, in our society, people are becoming more and more lonely, which isn't a good thing by any means. But for healthy people, they should find a good balance between being alone and being with people, because if you're always with people all the time, I think that it kind of removes you from your sense of self. Like, I think a big thing about being alone is you're alone with your own thoughts, so you're alone with yourself, so you have a chance to reflect on yourself and your ideals and your thoughts. But if you're constantly with people, then you never have a chance to really look inwards, because whether you like it or not, I think when you're with people, you're more focused on them and like their happiness, their needs, their whatever, compared to your own. I mean, if you're quite selfless, you could arguably be very selfish and not really think, not selfish, but maybe more self-centered. And when you're with people, you're still thinking about yourself. Or you could just be insecure and you're still thinking about yourself. But anyway, I think that was a very important theme throughout the show, because camping takes you back to not the beginning, but it takes you back to just nature. And even though when they're camping, they still like watch movies and go on their phone and stuff like that, Rin will also take a book and like relax. And I'm not trying to be like, oh, society need to go back to book and nature, because not arguably, because there's benefits to both technology and nature. But like I said, with the loneliness and the group aspect of camping, there's also a benefit to going back to nature and to also enjoying technology. And life is all about balance, and if you do too much of one thing, then you're gonna be how do I say this nicely, you're gonna be messed up. And it also gives you like a good perspective, because if you only look at one side of things, if you only look at technology, then you're gonna be very judgmental to people who like nature and stuff. But if you only look at nature, then you're going to be like harsh and difficult to technology, which you could say almost is worse, because technology isn't going to go away. Anyway, back into Yuru Camp, because this rant was still related to Yuru Camp, so I'm glad about that. The animation in terms of isn't like legendary, but the scenery is like very beautiful. And I remember watching because these days I'm a lot into like, I mean, Japanese YouTubers, but Japanese YouTubers that have like a foreign audience. And also some like Japanese vlogs, but they still kind of know that they have a foreign audience, so they'll put closed captions like in English or in other languages, but they'll only speak Japanese in the video. I've been watching a lot of those, and I remember in one of the I also love interviews of Japanese people, and one of them I was watching was like asking people their favourite anime like in 2021, I think, and somebody said Yuru Camp, and they started describing it, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna watch this then, because it seems pretty chill. And also I don't know if it was PewDiePie, but you know PewDiePie moved to Japan. I don't know, I think in his video of like just talking like answering questions about him moving to Japan, he said something about a camping site that was really popular in anime. I think it was the Yuru Camp campsite that's like beneath like Mount Fuji. There's like a big field and you can like camp there, and Rin camps there in season 1, and then Nadeshiko ends up joining her. But yeah, like a lot of these places that they go to is real, and it just kind of makes you want to go camping. It's like, I'm not going to call it the anime effect, but for me it happens mostly with anime because I haven't really watched like, I've tried to watch I am watching Stranger Things right now. I'm gonna like step away from anime a bit so that I don't get too consumed by the amount of anime media I consume. Like it almost becomes to the point where not you become numb, but you kind of do become a little bit numb because you're just like, another anime. But watching something else like gives me a break from just constant anime tropes, anime this, anime that, and watching actual actors like act is also quite rewarding, which is why I also like to like take a break and watch K-drama. I think that's still like Eastern Asian media. I still want to delve into other types of media, but that's not the point. Back to Yuru Camp. It gives like a sort of realism to it by like using actual scenes from the Yamanashi prefecture and stuff like that, and we're not in Tokyo, which I kind of like, and I know it's like the capital city, and a lot of like British media will be like in London because it's the capital city, because that's where stuff would happen. But I feel like taking it back to a smaller, more rural town or city adds to like the healing effect, the slice of life, because that's more relatable for me personally, because I don't live in a big city. Like, and also I live in like not the countryside, in like basically I just live in the north of England. They don't get enough representation, but just a smaller city in the north of Yorkshire. And you see a lot of fields, but it's still like, you still obviously have technology. We're not like what's it called? Apart from society. But anyway, putting it in a small city or town like also livens people up to the beauty. But then again, Mount Fuji is in it, so I don't know if actually this is in a small city, because if I saw Mount Fuji is like a national landmark, so you think you'd put like a big city next to like one of your national landmarks, but I don't know. Like, maybe I should have, like, looked a bit more into this before, but, Then, I wrote about, like, character profiles, like, the characters and what I think about them. So I already talked to you a little bit about Rin and Nadeshiko, so I'll just go through the notes I wrote about them specifically. So, I wrote that Rin, she honestly cares about her friends, and this is about everybody, but I like everybody's character design. I'll elaborate more on that when I get to each person's character, but for Rin, she like that when the outdoor activities club, I haven't even gotten to them yet, but when the outdoors activity club, so Chiaki, Ali, and Ena-chan go camping in like and they weren't prepared, she called the sensei and was all like, not broski, I need to stop doing this. She was all like, sensei, it's gonna get to like minus whatever degrees there, they're gonna freeze to death. So then she honestly cares about it, even though she acts like she doesn't want to care about them, and she doesn't even want to join the outdoors activity club. She still went out of her way to like be like, I care about these people and they might get like hypothermia, so I'm gonna get the sensei to go and like look after them. What else about her? But she's not exactly like, I mean, you could say she's introverted. She's friends with Ena, and I don't really know their history. They could be childhood friends, but Ena's like very bubbly, but she's also like lazy, which I kind of relate to. Like the outdoors activity club are like, Ena-chan, join our club, and she's like, I would prefer to go home, which I think is like a cultural thing, because I'm assuming, I could be wrong, but I'm assuming that most people in like high school or middle school have an after school club, and if you don't have an after school club, then you appear as like lazy, because everybody has an after school club, and the culture's not quite the same in the UK. Like most people actually aren't in an after school club. You can be like a lunch club, I guess, but I personally like after school clubs and clubs in general, because I feel like it gives you like a different side of school. Like, what clubs have I been in? Been in school council. I've been in like this environmental club we had. I've been in sports clubs. I've been in netball. I've been in basketball. This is there club wise. I'm trying to remember, because I'm also trying to remember primary school. I've been in choir. That was like year 7. I want to start a new club for sixth form. because I kind of like making and managing clubs. I like the freedom of just like being able to do whatever I want to do. And my friend was like, Angie, let's make a band. And I was like, I can't play an instrument. And she was like, you could sing. And I was like, okay. But I'll have to like either just like take lessons or watch YouTube videos because my voice is nowhere near singing quality. And I feel like that's interesting though. I might actually go through with that, or I might do something else. But anyway, back to Nadeshko. She's the new girl, like I said, and then she ends up joining the outdoors activity club because in the first episode she meets Rin-chan and loves camping. So she's like, there has to be a club at school that does that, and she finds the outdoor activities club, and they have a really small club room, and that's where she meets Chiaki, I don't know her last name, and Ali. And I actually really like Nadeshko's voice actor. It is Yumiri Hanumori. She portrays Nadeshko's character really well because she is happy but also independent and wants to be independent more. In a way, you could argue that she's kind of babied by her older sister because her older sister like drives her everywhere, like is always looking after her. Like in that episode where Nadeshko goes camping alone for the first time, Rin and her sister like kind of spy on her and don't really like her, which is kind of sweet, but at the same time like she wanted to do it independently. She's also a really good cook, and I like how they gave her like that grandma personality because it's kind of like being the mom friend of the group, but not really, because I feel like the mom friend of the group is I don't think it's a trope that they portray that much in like anime and stuff, but I feel like in Western media, or like at least in like Western friendship groups, that's like a thing that happens a lot, because I'm like the quote-unquote mom friend of the friendship group, like, and your job pretty much, if you don't know, it's like, not your job, but you know, it's like typically you have like all the medicine, you always have tissues, you always have like food, you always have everything planned out perfectly to make sure everyone's okay. You're always like, does this person have a ride, that person have a ride, da da da. I mean, to be fair, I'm the mom friend of the group, but my mom doesn't like to drive me places, so I always have to get a ride with somebody else. Yeah, but still, it's like it's not a responsibility that like you, like, I'm not saying I hate it or I'm forced to do it, it's just like you end up doing it, and in a way I enjoy it. But with the grandma personality trope, it's more like she acts like somebody who like always has food, but isn't necessarily like looking after everybody's needs per se. She just like says a lot of things, and again, if I understood Japanese, I'm learning Japanese, but if I understood Japanese more, like her language and the things she says is kind of implied in the show that like she uses a lot of like grandma phrases. And I think she arguably revived the outdoors activity club despite being the new girl. I mean, when I think about anime, how many times it's pretty common. It's either she's not the main character, but or depends. I think I should stop trying to figure out who the main character is, because it doesn't really matter in this sense, because it just follows like how many of them? 1, 2, 3, the 5 of them, and the like outdoors activity club, which I think is quite fun. But you could say arguably the 2 main characters are like Rin and Nadeshko. What was I going to say about her? I was like, she's the new girl character, but she like almost steals the show in a way, like she almost becomes the main character. I was about to talk about shows that like do that, but I'm not going to. Then I have Chiaki. I don't know, I feel like this is like, I might be like I'm missing something language barrier wise, but I feel like she uses like a lot of like, not Yakuza, but like rough like Japanese. Like she likes to say omae a lot, and I mean, depending on the region you're on, omae can be used like friendly, I think, but it's usually like used masculinely. Is that a word? I don't know. And she can be a bit of a menace sometimes, but she's really good at finding camping spots, and she is the president of the outdoors activity club. At the beginning, she's like trying to get members because she wants to get a bigger club room, which is, to be honest, that's pretty fair. Like their club room at the minute was like a corridor or something, and there's not really that much space for them. It was difficult obviously for her because there weren't that many members. Then you have Aoi. I wrote something here, but I'm not going to talk about that until later, but she's portrayed as kind of like a compulsive liar. Well, not like she can't stop lying, she just likes lying a lot. And Nadeshko is quite naive, so the fact that she's like always lying always messes with Nadeshko, because she's like, are you actually telling the truth? And like her little sister, Aoi's little sister's kind of the same. Like they both like to lie to each other a lot, but then Aoi's younger sister is like a bit, not dumber, but like she's a child, So sometimes she doesn't get when like her older sister's lying, and sometimes trusts her a lot, which I really like. Then you have Enna-chan, which is like Rin's original like best friend or friend, and she's like a dog person. She doesn't really want to join a club, but she ends up like hanging out with the activities club because she really likes the club. And I forgot what her dog was called. Chikuwa, that's what it's called, because in my head it's Chihuahua, but it's not, it's Chikuwa. And she ended up buying like a really expensive tent, and I don't know if she's like rich. She's kind of like, not pretend that she's rich, but like she buys a lot of expensive cafes. Like she bought a really expensive tent just for her dog, not even for her. Then honorable mentions, you have Nadeshko's sister, who's kind of overprotective, and but I kind of want to know more about her because there's nothing. They don't really tell us like what she works as. Obviously, she knows how to drive. They don't say she's like in uni or she's finished uni or anything like that. We obviously meet like the people's parents. We don't meet everyone's parents. We meet like Nadeshko's parents, Rin's parents, because Rin's grandpa was the person who got her into camping in the first place when she was like in middle school, and ever since then she's like been really into camping. And her mom was like a motorbike person, which I kind of liked. And then the teacher, who's like a raging alcoholic, I write, but realistically, I like how they portrayed that at the beginning she didn't want to like take on any clubs. She was like, oh, it's gonna be such a pain to like take on like a club, but in the end she ends up really enjoying looking after the outdoors activity club because her younger sister, who gets mistaken for a guy when we first meet them, really likes camping too. So she's like, and they used to go camping a lot when they were like kids. So her basically looking after the outdoor activities club was like a perfect fit for her because she gets to go camping and she gets to drink like all different types of like not liquor, let's just say alcohol, all different types of alcohol by going across the country. Like it's obviously an expensive thing. They get to go on so many trips, see so much scenery. Like they go to, in season 2 they go to like this place that has a bunch of geo spots, which is really cool. And I was like, oh, my GCSE geography was flaring up. I was like, oh my gosh, that's a spit, oh my gosh, that's a wave cut platform. And it was really fun. Then I wrote here, honestly, I feel like the portrayal of teenage girls was kind of nice. Like, which, this brings me back to Aoi. I was like, honestly, depending on who you are, I would argue that the male gaze isn't too implored in here, besides from maybe when they go to hot springs. But even then, Aoi evidently has really big boobs, but they never say that out loud, or they never like make a joke about it. Then none of the other characters like does that weird anime thing where they like look at her chest and then they look at theirs and then they're like, ugh, or they like say something in their head or something like that. Like nobody ever points it out, and I flipping love it because it's like, again, she's just existing, so there's no need to point it out, there's no need to make a joke of it, there's no need to make a thing about it. And I know I'm pointing it out now, which kind of, it doesn't feel redundant, but I'm only putting it out to say that they did that really well. Like they didn't sexualize a teenage girl, which I appreciate, which is the kind of the bare minimum, but you know, media makes it feel like it's not the bare minimum, but it was quite enjoyable. And also everybody had like different body types. Well, not different body types. The only thing I would say, but that's anime in general, is like they're all skinny, and they're obviously like Japanese with like palish skin. You know, like they're Asian, but like pale skin. Now, one thing I don't know if I really enjoy in anime is when they give like their characters like dark skin, but they're not black. They're just like really darkly tanned, and it kind of feeds into like the gyaru like aesthetic. Because I can't remember when that came out, but like before 2000, to combat like Japanese beauty standards of being like extremely pale and stuff like that, and like very dainty and modest, they like did the opposite. So they like extremely dark tan, stuff like that. I personally am not a fan of like extreme dark like tan on like people who don't have dark skin. Like I know it doesn't really have necessarily anything to do with black people, but like in especially like America, it's like reminiscent of like minstrel shows and blackface. I'm not saying it is when they do that in anime, but I'm saying it just gives me like a little bit of an icky feeling, because I'm like, I don't know actually how they do it though. Like, should they address it, should they not address it, should they like in Nana set in the early 2000s, not the one with the black hair, the other Nana, her little sister is like a gyaru, I guess. She has like really dark tan skin, and I think they mention it, but like from what I remember, I don't really like how they do that, but either way, I think they just call it weird, which is kind of fair enough. But the point is, kind of going on a side rant about dark skin in anime, I feel like sometimes maybe it's supposed to be obvious that they're not black, but other times I'd prefer them to specify or maybe explain why the person does that, because it's, again, Psyche K, some people have issues with Psyche K and dark people in it, because there's one character that's kind of like sort of insinuated this black, not the girl, the like random background guy, but they give him like really big kind of ugly lips, and it's just kind of like that doesn't sit right with me. But anyway, I was going on a rant about body types. It's still like very skinny and pale skin. Like, I'm not saying that it's like, wow, they've done so much for different body types. I'm just saying that they didn't sexualize a teenage girl, which should be the bare minimum, but it's not. And then I wrote, strangely not, I said that at the beginning. I said there's not even like a single guy in sight, which I kind of prefer, because it takes any of the focus off like romance or misunderstandings. Like, me and my friends yesterday on Discord, we like did a tier list of our favorite like romance tropes in anime, not really anime, just romance tropes in general. And I'm gonna pull up the list because people might disagree with me or agree with me. This is the three of us' joint list though. Like, some of the stuff at the top I don't agree with, but So at the top we have a royalty fic, there's only one bed, secret relationship, fluff, forbidden romance, star-crossed lovers, in vino veritas, which just means there's truth in wine. So it's like, I don't know, one of them gets drunk and then they say a bunch of stuff, and then the next day like they wake up and they're like, gosh darn it. And then mutual pining, that's in favorites. Then we have usually like, we have sports fic, enemies to lovers, past history, and there's another enemies to lovers, huddle for warmth, fake dating, can't spit it out, fake out, make out, everyone can see it, secret identity, and happily ever after. Then we have depends on execution. There's a lot. I'm not going to talk about but at the bottom we have things like slow burn, miscommunication, and obviously sometimes if you bring romance into it for the sake of drama, you have to put in like a miscommunication. And I can't decide personally, because I don't like miscommunications, but I can't decide personally whether they're like necessary for the story or how long they should go on for if you do have a misunderstanding, because misunderstandings can happen in real life, but with good communication they don't last for long. I feel like there's such a large portrayal of like bad communication or bad communication relationships that it's like every time there is a miscommunication, it can't be solved quickly because they've already established that they have a bad communication in this relationship. What else at the bottom? Alpha, Beta, Omega. I'm not going to talk about that because I didn't believe that was true. Then I saw a fan fiction about it yesterday. Interrupted intimacy, Fade to Black. Then there's just some weird ones. Like, I hate an amnesia one. What's secret bet? I hate bet relationship thingies. And then bully. I hate when the bully turns into love interest. I just flipping can't. But yeah, by removing the guys from this. But I mean, I'm not saying that if you put guys in, then you have to put a romance. This category on the tier list, it says depends on execution. So all of these things, it's about how well the writer can write, pretty much. And I can't testify for this anime whether it's written by a man or a woman, but it doesn't really matter in this sense because I just like the anime and I thought like it was easy enough to talk about. Okay. Still, I'm getting to about 40 minutes now. And do I have anything I really want to say about Yuru Camp? I haven't seen the movie. I should probably watch the movie. About the character designs, it kind of has all the characters have coloured hair besides from the main. The main characters have coloured hair and everyone else doesn't. But to be honest, that's just an anime thing. And I kind of miss back in my early days. I still do it now. But you know when like you watch like a 12 episode thing and you're like the person with the red hair. Side rant, because I was thinking about this while I was in the shower this morning because I watched a YouTube video about it. Do you ever like find yourself, I'll do side rant and I'll do updates and I'll end it, so that might take another 10 minutes. Do you ever find yourself like, so you watch something that's like really really popular and everyone's like this is peak, and not like, I'm not talking like shonen necessarily, I'm talking like, let's say something like Daily Life of High School Boys or like Love is War, for example. I'm saying Love is War is great, but do you ever find yourself like watching something that is really popular and you know it's good, right? Or you know it's supposed to be, there's two sides to this. Either you know it's supposed to be good, but you're just not laughing or you're just not enjoying it the way that you feel like you should be. So then you're just like, it was okay, it was pretty good, but I wasn't like in the case of some comedy, I wasn't laughing my guts out. Like with Grand Blue, I only watched the first 2 episodes, I think, and I didn't really like it that much. And I know people said it was really funny, it was hilarious, but I just couldn't. I had to stop watching that. Same with Daily Life of High School Boys. I watched the first episode and I was like, I don't really like this that much. But then there's things like Love is War, which is supposed to be good, and you enjoy it. But I think that's the same thing. But anyway, I'm just gonna explain it. And you enjoy it, but I'm not laughing I'm not this is the best anime ever. And I wish I could. I actually wish I could. I try and find things. I'm like, okay. I try and make excuses for myself. This is what I'm trying to get to. I'm trying to make excuses to myself, why I didn't like it or why I didn't enjoy it that much when I was first watching it. And I'm like, I guess it was just my mood at the time. If I was to rewatch it now, I bet I'd say it was really, really funny. But at the same time, I feel like in the past couple of years I've been watching anime, I've watched a lot of stuff, and the stuff that if it sticks out for me, then it's good for me, I feel like, or unless it sticks out badly, I don't want to force myself to try and make stuff that I don't. Everybody has their preferences, and then I feel like in this anime community, in this anime climate, that if you don't like the same thing, I mean, you can say that about any community, but if you don't like the same thing as somebody else, then you're wrong. And then you make yourself feel wrong because you're like, okay, well, why don't I even like it? Obviously I missed something. Obviously I'm dumb enough. I don't get it. Clearly there's something going on. Even with Nichijou, when I finished Nichijou, and I absolutely love it, but I wasn't laughing. And I don't know. I feel like for me, I don't know what my comedy style is, but it might be situational kind of comedy. I'd probably laugh harder just talking to my friends than I would But then you could say, arguably, in a show, you're supposed to, you're not supposed to become friends with these characters, but you're supposed to, know these characters' personalities more. And maybe that's a language barrier, because some phrases would probably be funnier if I understood Japanese. But I know a dub exists, but, like I said, the language barrier might make it a little less funny than it probably would be if I understood Japanese. But like I said, you're supposed to, know these characters, and then, when they do something, you're it's funny because you know the type of character they are, rather than... Which I guess kind of is situational comedy. When you're with your friend, you're laughing at whatever they said because you know your friend and you know the context and everything behind that joke. But even in Nichijou, there's a lot of cultural, not even Nichijou, just in Japanese comedy in general, because I was watching a video about why people don't really understand, why people say Japanese comedy is mainly slapstick comedy, which it isn't. It's because there's a lot of cultural things that people don't understand, and if you don't understand it, sometimes you just mentally block it out and don't think it exists, which for you means that only slapstick comedy is the only type of Japanese comedy that ever exists. But anyway, that's what I think. Have I watched an anime that actually genuinely made me laugh every episode? I actually can't think, because even if I go into my list right now, which I am gonna do, most of the stuff I love is because of the plot and because of the characters, and it's not necessarily a comedy, it's just every now and again there'll be really funny moments. In Dr. Stone, there'll be really funny moments, But you're not going to call Dr. Stone a comedy, are you? Even in Spy X Family, which just finished airing, same with Love is War Season 3, it's over now. There were really funny moments, but I wasn't laughing every single episode. And I feel it feels a bit unrealistic to assume that you're going to laugh every episode, isn't it? But some people do, and then it almost feels oh no, what's wrong with me? Because I'm not laughing at every single episode of this anime, even though people said it was hilarious, some of my favourites on here aren't necessarily they're not really comedy. I don't put a lot of comedy in my favourites. I'm a more story-based person with elements of comedy in it. A good example of possibly comedy I kind of like is the Purple Hyacinth, And I was talking about I'm actually not going to detail this conversation, but I was talking about to my friend how I because I'm going to have to not out myself, basically, I started playing Mystic Messenger, and I'm going through the Yusung route, and because he's my friend was oh, you like Golden Retriever? I hate this term so much, and I've literally used it all the time on my podcast, but she was oh, you like Golden Retriever boys, Angela? And I was yeah, I hate to admit it. So I thought you would have done the Yusung route, and I was oh, yeah, kind of makes sense. But if you know the Purple Hyacinth, the Purple Hyacinth, the assassin, the other main character in the Purple Hyacinth, I like that kind of humor, that kind of guy. It's not dark humor necessarily, but it's he's very classy, but then he likes witty jokes. I love a good witty joke, And I did the Purple Hyacinth, again, the comedy's not the main thing, they have this whole mystery and drama plot and da-da-da going on the side, but I love just jokes inserted in perfectly witty at the night time, and to be honest, I find like the reading forms like manga and webtoons a little bit harder to like not understand, but just to like follow maybe for me. And I feel like it's because I'm a slow reader, and also the flow of manga panels I'm bad at. But the more I read manga and webtoon, the easier it gets for me to like understand where and how the story's moving and where everybody's positioned. Because in a book it will just describe it to you, but in a webtoon you have to. The point is, I'm pretty much. I just feel bad sometimes that I don't like enjoy something as much as everybody like else enjoys it. Because you want to enjoy things as much as everybody else enjoys it, because that's kind of part of human nature. You want to partake in things that everybody likes, you know. But I will conclude this by doing my update at the end, because I think I go off topic sometimes if I do. Like, I still went off topic, but I go off topic sometimes if I don't do my rant at the end. So, in terms, all the spring anime is finished. I talked about that. And also the studio that animated Yuru Camp was Studio C Station. They're kind of an unknown studio. They haven't animated anything I've heard of. What else? Manga I've been reading. I started reading this manga in Japanese on this like app I got, but then it like gives you a limit on how many chapters you can read without paying, which was fine. So I just had to read the rest in English. And it's called Skip to Loafer. I don't know. It seems a bit. I'm enjoying it so far, but it's nothing special. Like, I wouldn't necessarily recommend it to people. It's just kind of like slice of life, wholesome, high schooly kind of stuff, and it's fine. Games I've kind of stopped watching a little bit of anime. Like, I'm only talking about this because I watched it like 2 weeks ago, Yuru Camp. But I've taken a bit of an anime break. I might get back into it, but like I said earlier, I'm watching Stranger Things because I'm trying to do watch other things besides from anime, and I've been playing a lot of games recently. So I've gotten back into Genshin because I have time, and Kazuha's banner's coming next. I'm bringing Kazuha home, but I actually haven't been playing Genshin that much. I've been playing a lot of Ace Attorney. I finished the first game. I'm about to start the second game. I downloaded Stardew Valley, bought and downloaded Stardew Valley because it was on sale, and I'm sorry, I'm a sucker for anything that's on sale. I know it's another farming sim, and I already have Animal Crossing New Horizons, and it's probably going to be long. Like I obviously said earlier, I'm playing Mystic Messenger. I think I'm going to download Fall Guys because that's really popular right now, and I played it at my mum's like friend's house with her son, who's about my age, and it was quite fun. It just seems like a good game you can just like play on VC, but it does seem like a console game, not an app game. So I can only really play it with people who either have a Switch or have a like Xbox or something. Any other games there's a lot of stuff I want to do, I want to read, I want to play. Like, I've got a lot to do. My friend started playing Amore, which I recommend everyone to play Amore. It's so good. I didn't know it was classified as 18 though, because it just came out on Switch. And I played it on Steam because it was cheaper on Steam, and plus it wasn't out on Switch when I was playing it. It's cheaper on Steam, I still think. But it's a really good game. I recommend people to play it, and it's not very hard. I like my games not very hard, or I can just like go find a walkthrough and like play it. Anyways, getting to 40 minutes. Anyway, back to Yuru Camp. Yuru Camp was a very enjoyable slice of life, cute girls doing cute things anime, and I recommend if you just want to watch something, you could probably watch it weekly if you don't have a lot of time. But also binging it is still quite satisfying anyway, because of the scenery, the characters, the voice actors, just everything about it really gives you just like peace, I feel like, inside, which is kind of the point of healing anime. It's like, it's nothing extravagant. The animation's not like, in terms of like the character movement, it's not amazing. I wouldn't say it's very tropey, besides from possibly like the maybe overprotective older sibling, the person who's always drunk, which is the teacher, maybe the dog person. But I don't feel like these are like typical tropes, unless I'm being like dumb. But I do have I did watch a video about comedy anime, so I might start watching comedy anime once I finish Stranger Things or in between. Thank you guys for listening to this episode of the podcast. I talked last episode about how I want to change some things about the podcast. I don't really know what I want to change though, because I've been doing it for a year. My friend pointed it out to me. This is like about our year anniversary of the podcast since the beginning, and I'm glad I've been able to release episodes at least a monthly consistently. Well, besides from the beginning. At the beginning it wasn't very consistent because it was year 10. I still want to make changes to this. I don't really know what I want to with this podcast, because I want to improve the YouTube, but I don't really know how. I feel like I need to learn a bit more about editing, because the audio I'm fine with, but the video wise I want to do more with that. But anyway, thank you for listening to the podcast. Hope you have a good week, a good summer. I have the longest summer ahead of me that's gonna happen. Apparently people say in my lifetime, because I have like a 9-week summer. I'm really excited for what I can do this summer. I'm really excited to learn Japanese, possibly get a job, all these things I really want to do. Thank you for listening to this episode 12 of So anyway, bye.
Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed.